Nuanced Beauty is a podcast where we try to tease out the complexity, or as I say, the nuance, in any given topic so that we can acknowledge the tension there and hold space to see the beauty in it, the beauty in ourselves and the beauty in others and relationships. It's not easy seeing beyond our own opinions, but there's wisdom in the pursuit. So join us. Hi, guys. Welcome back to Nuanced Beauty. I am bringing you another interview this week with a friend named Jennifer. Jennifer and I met in Washington a few years ago. She is an alumni from the Merchant Marine Academy, and she is a business owner of Sweetgrass Essentials. And I don't remember what event we actually connected at, but I had an opportunity to visit her home a couple years back, maybe a few years back now, when my eldest was a toddler. And I got to play. Well, I got to play. The kids got to play. We got to walk around the house a bit. And I feel like Jennifer's homestead has expanded, or maybe it's just because I am paying attention to her Instagram. Truly, if you are looking for an insightful and encouraging homestead sort of Instagram, you should give her a follow. She has some lovely, lovely content. So yeah, with that, welcome, Jennifer.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here.
Yeah, thank you for chatting with me today. Can you give us a highlight of who you are?
Sure. Like you mentioned, I live south of Seattle. I have three kids, and my husband and my kids and I. So we live on I like to call it a small farm. I wouldn't call it so much a hobby farm, but we live on small farm, and I'm originally not from this area. I grew up in the Midwest in Ohio.
Okay.
Ironically, not on a farm.
Oh, okay.
Um, and like you mentioned, we went to the same college, and after college is when I moved out here. So I originally was a salty sailor, merchant mariner, where I shipped out as an engineer and so I actually moved out to Seattle for that reason and just
Oh,
never
to take
left.
jobs off the
Mhm.
board or such?
Yes, and
Okay.
I actually still dabble in that because I live so close to the terminal. Um,
Hmm.
so I've been stay at home since my oldest was born. That's when I shouldn't say left. I took a break from my career when my oldest was born, but I still kind of kept my foot in the door slightly where I do some port relief jobs at the terminal since I'm so close to the shipping terminal. So I'll take some night relief jobs where I'll go work on the container ships and before while they're in port. And
Nice.
um and yeah, I've just been doing that, and I've been in the Navy Reserves. So luckily, with my position in the reserves, since I've been in it about 20 years or so, I've been fortunate to take kind of an admin position where I get to do a lot of my Navy Reserve obligations from home. Uh,
Hmm.
and then having my wellness business. So it's been nice to kind of be settled at home, working my side hustles.
Uh-huh. Yeah, you're keeping doors open. It sounds well-rounded. And that's interesting. You're from the Midwest. So I was from Missouri, Kansas, Colorado, and Bill was from Wisconsin. So we were all Midwesterners, and we ended up at the academy in New York, and then we both found our way out to Seattle. So that's awesome. for today's episode, I wanted to focus our conversation on homesteading. Um, I've bought some of your products from Sweetgrass Essentials and I follow your Instagram. And so I thought that would be a fun topic. I feel like a lot of folks are dabbling with gardens right now, or they're buying chickens because they want to get their own fresh eggs, or they're just curious, like, how do we live differently and perhaps a simpler and healthier life? And getting back to those, like, homesteading vibes, I guess. Have you noticed this trend too?
Um, I have. And it's interesting that you asked this question because I feel like everything is cyclical. And um, for a lot of our parents' generation, growing up in the 50s,
Mhm.
kind of it was an empowerment era for especially women.
Mhm.
Most of them before the 50s were stay-at-home moms, and they had their job at home, and the husband had their job, going to work every day, and the women would be at home cooking mostly everything from scratch. And in the 50s is when the big movement of processed food and ready-to-made meals kind of hit
Started to
the
go. Yeah.
yeah, it just kind of hit mainstream America. And there's always goods and bads with that. I mean, the good is it brought some relief to those moms, because it is hard every day in and out to cook from scratch.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
it gave them some time, to do other things, and in some cases, most cases, it enabled the mom to go outside of the home and work.
Mm-hmm.
uh, but moving forward now, what, 70 years, um we all know processed foods and
Aren't the
those
they're not doing good for our
who
digestive
aren't.
system.
Yeah, and there's so many great shortcut meals, but I shouldn't say so many. There's actually very few shortcut meals when you really dive into the ingredients.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, but I feel like, everything kind of cycles, and a lot of people are coming to their own with, like, thinking for themselves and taking a step back and saying, okay, this is not good to be eating all this processed foods. And slowly more and more studies are coming out that bad food is not good for you. So I
Yeah.
feel like this trend, this movement, whatever you may call it, to me, it's exciting that you're seeing more people that want to lead like a homestead life. I actually categorize myself as a semi-homesteader.
Uh-huh.
And it's been fun, and it's been fun to just lean and go back to the basics and
Now,
learn.
you said a semi-homesteader. Sorry to interrupt there, but give me like a little bit of like meat. What do you mean by, like, where would you draw the line between homestead, semi-homestead?
Well, I feel like, if you're a homesteader, I think I totally could be a homesteader if I lived somewhere very rural, where
Yeah.
I was far from the store. But, I live on a small farm, 5 minutes from the grocery store, 10 minutes from Costco. I live in a very accessible place to get things. So
Uh-huh.
I don't kill myself to,
Do you
make
ever
everything from scratch.
You're not what's the term for your grain? Like, are you milling your grain?
I'm not, but that's actually a plan in the future.
I love it. Yeah, yeah.
Just because, so I bake my own bread. When you start something like that, you want to just slowly level up, at least for me.
Uh-huh.
It's like, okay, so I'm
I like
baking
it.
bread. It's not too bad. How can I make this bread healthier? And that's
Uh-huh.
by milling your wheat. I'm not going to be growing wheat anytime soon, but milling grains that I buy, or wheat, to have
Yeah.
the most nutrient dense bread. Because if you when
If
you
you
buy
take
the
the
flour, it
husk or
has,
such out of it, right? Like you're kind of removing some of those outer layers that actually have some of the nutrients in that.
yeah, exactly. So when you mill your grains, that's at its highest potency for nutrition.
Yeah.
So it's in the works. I just have to, I don't want to stress myself out to like get all the, the equipment and get there. And that's just what I've been doing with this semi-homestead type life is when I start getting comfortable, now I add an extra layer.
Yeah, I like that. I like that definition, and I think it's good to mention because, like, we live in a suburban neighborhood in St. John's, Florida, which is a very nice area, and we're one of the crazies with a big garden, and it's not even a big garden, but we're growing food, and um so we are not hashtag homesteaders per se. We still go to the grocery store on the regular, but we're trying to embrace some of those principles, and I think that that's a really good caveat to bring out. So did you always want to live on a piece of land, and do gardening and such, and raising animals? If not, what led you down this path?
When I was growing up in Ohio, where I did not live on a farm, I
Uh-huh.
did want to live. I wish I did have farm animals. I mean, we just had the family dog and we did have a couple acres. Um, my mom, I say my mom, but it was a family effort. We did have a 5,000 square foot organic garden.
Oh, cool. Yeah.
Um, and it was one of those things, when you're a kid and you have something like that, you don't truly appreciate it.
Uh-huh.
So I did not like that aspect of my life during that time, even though I was very healthy and my mom, you know, she grew all of our vegetables. So we would be helping my brother and I. It wasn't just her, it would be a family effort. So we did a lot of weeding. I did a
Okay.
tremendous amount of weeding throughout my childhood. So I
Got it.
didn't enjoy it. So when I
Yeah.
went off to college, I come from a really rural town. I actually wanted to go live in New York City, to be honest with you. And, I instead moved out to Seattle and I lived downtown. I thought this is where it's at. But
Uh-huh.
it's not until you do something different where you realize
How good you had it.
how good you had it.
Yeah.
So luckily, when I met my husband, he had the same values I have about having some land and potentially having animals. And luckily, he actually grew up raising cows on a small scale level, but he understood how to raise cows. I
Cattle.
I
Okay.
had no clue. So when we first were married and started our family, he said, "Let's get two cows," and I'm like, "All right," because he knew how to do it.
That's cool. Um,
And
now
yeah,
when
that's how we started.
okay, and to add to that, when you started, I'm kind of thinking about like what motivates folks to start gardening or take on, chickens for eggs and such. And some people would say it's because they want to prove that they can be self-sufficient. Others might want to know where their food comes from and avoid toxins or get like nutrition. And so when you got started, what was kind of the driver for you, and have those goals changed at all?
So I originally didn't have a goal set in place when we started with our animals. It wasn't something that we had like a 5-year goal. It was just something we just started, so like I said, we brought two cows onto our property, and then, we had the cows and that was fun. So then we just got a few chickens and then had a garden. Um,
Okay.
but what was a little bit difficult when we were first married, we actually moved. Let's see, we moved. This is our fourth home we've been in since we've been married.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
we had a hard time just trying to find the best place to settle. So we moved the second home closer to the city, and we didn't have any yard. Um,
Mhm.
and then our third home, we had a yard, and but then we're finally at our fourth home, which ironically is the home my husband grew up in,
Oh, okay. Cool.
with the 20-year difference and 20-year gap in ownership from when his parents sold it. And so it's funny because this is the perfect setup for us, and it's been so nice. The longest time we've lived anywhere, as since we've been married. So
And that's
just in the last
wonderful for like growing, as you mentioned, kind of just taking a thing at a time and adding the next thing and the next thing. Us making that move from Seattle, we were 2 to 3 years into gardening. And so we had to start back over from scratch. And we're in a totally different climate and zone and all the things. So having to like, you feel like you're so far, like, oh, I'm 2 to 3 years in, and then you have to start over. So man, yeah,
exactly.
I'm glad you have a nice setup and you feel, like you can continue laying down roots.
It's been nice because we've been here about at this home for about 6 years. So now talking about goals, now I've had been able to sit down and project some goals on what I need to do next. And yeah, like I mentioned, once I start getting comfortable with, for instance, my 100-foot row of garden,
Uh-huh.
last summer, I wanted to add another 100-foot row in of actually just lavender, but it was
Oh,
doable
cool.
because it was established, I was able to maintain it. So it's like, okay, I have room. What can I do to improve or add to my little homestead? And that was the next thing.
Uh-huh. I like that. Yeah. Um, I want to dive into that you guys have cattle, and in the spirit of nuance, some people are vegetarian, um, and some people are avoiding eating meat because they're worried about farming practices. And then you have other folks who think that cows are the the largest climate change factor because of their manure. Um, so there's just this big cultural push for people to not eat meat and fake meat, as I would call it. Um, would you mind sharing why you guys are comfortable raising livestock and eating the livestock?
um, yeah, I mean, that's a great question. I mean, I know, especially where I live and near the Seattle area, there is quite a few vegetarians and vegetarian options and restaurants. Um, but we feel comfortable raising our beef because it has been working so well for us. We obviously are meat eaters, and I love that I can provide quality beef, foremost for my family. Um,
Yeah.
Raising three kids, just knowing that, we do grass fed, grass finished. They're getting quality, the top notch quality beef. So we do sell our beef. I sell our beef once a year when we slaughter about 2 to 3 cows. And that's been really nice, because there has been a lot of interest from people. I don't hear too much from the vegetarians. I do have a lot of vegetarian friends and relatives, but what I do hear that's been really, um, makes me do what I do is the people that have learned about how we raise our animals, the friends that have come and visited our farm and see how we ethically treat our animals. We name all of them. Some of them get brushed and get
Uh-huh.
special treats, and it's such a humane process to, even down to slaughtering our beef.
Yeah.
Um, there's I mean, we can dive into so many different topics with that. I mean, even if you slaughter cattle, when they, if you take them to a slaughterhouse, they actually release stress cortisol and stress hormones when
Uh-huh.
they know that today's the day, and it actually affects the quality of the meat
Uh-huh.
because of the adrenaline getting pumped into their bodies. And we actually have the butcher actually comes straight out to our farm to do a total humane way of slaughtering the cattle, and they don't even know what happened. And it's
Oh, that's cool.
so
Yeah.
the quality beef is so great with everything that we work to do. And like, what, like I said, I sell our beef every year, and this year I sold 2 cows I in 15 minutes.
Oh,
It's just
wonderful.
the friends that I know and the people that I know, because they know that they're getting quality beef. Beef isn't beef, like milk isn't milk, cheese isn't cheese. Like there's so many different types of you know,
Like ways of producing it, and yeah, like mass production looks different than a small farm. I think for me, because we eat meat as well, and we've incorporated some vegetarian meals, and like I have a book about the blue zone diet, which heavily is a supporter of people who live to 100 years old primarily have a more vegetarian diet. In addition, they have thriving communities, and they also like move, like they move a lot. They're not in a desk job. So there's so many variables to that. But I kind of think that there's a component of us being so far removed from our food sources, and the effort that goes into getting food on the shelves, that I think we've really lost an appreciation for how food sustains our lives. And not just like, from chicken and cows, and also grains and like garden vegetables, like growing your own vegetable, and to realize the level of time and patience and watching and waiting that goes into it is huge. And specifically in regards to like eating meat, I can remember as a teen, I lived with my dad and brother back in Missouri, and we were very tight on money. And some of my dad's friends from the bar were hunters, and so we would get deer brought over because they hunted the max number for that year, and we butchered the deer in our own barn, and we also kept chickens on our property, so we got our own fresh eggs. And I guess for me, I formed an appreciation for how this food like nourished us. And I don't think that all farms treat their animals poorly. So it's, like you said, there's ways to find avenues that produce higher quality meats. There's ways to learn about chickens and getting a pasture raised egg versus even the cage free egg isn't they they aren't in a cage, but they don't make them go outside, and they're not raised on a pasture. So there's just things that you can learn, and you can eat better quality in that regards. But
exactly. I mean, I just started canning for the first time this year or this summer, and
uh-huh.
it's it does give you an appreciation for the food. And when you have an appreciation for the food, um it is empowering. It is so nice. And you appreciate that meal. The meal actually tastes
Better.
better, right?
Yeah. Yes, I totally agree. I saw that video recently. You were canning some tomato sauce.
Yes, I made pasta sauce this weekend, and it took, I mean, I wasn't over slaving over this stove all day, but
It was
but
some
it took
effort.
it
Yeah.
took a lot of effort. It took about, 6 to 7 hours where I had to be on it to
Hmm.
produce, I think, 4 or 5 quart jars. Um,
Yeah.
but like I said, I just did it for the first time. And I feel like with this homesteading journey, anytime you try something for the first time, it's always going to be a little bit challenging. You might do it you might be more careful, and you might be like super
There's
methodical about it, but then it
yeah, the
becomes
learning
second
curve.
nature the more you do it.
Yes, totally. I was kind of thinking about that, and like with us and gardening, it takes such consistent time and energy and patience. Um so what keeps you going? Like how do you keep going and endure through these learning curves and these 6 to 7 hours making pasta sauce? Yeah, where do you find meaning in that?
So I have, I feel like I have a lot of gardening space. And so far it hasn't been too overwhelming. I mean, sometimes we've had some really dry summers in Seattle where there is a lot more work to do, but I actually have incorporated gardening into my self-care. A few summers ago, my mom was visiting, and my husband was asking her one night because he'd see me outside every single night hand watering my gardens. And
Uh-huh.
um I have a water system for my gardens that I could just turn on the hose. But he was asking my mom, why does she go out there every single night to water for 45 minutes to an hour? My mom told him, well, look at her. She's not wearing her shoes. She has a headset in. This is her self-care time. And she was absolutely right. I mean, gardening can be a lot of work, but for me, it's my one time a day to ground myself, to literally ground myself by taking off my shoes and just being barefoot and being by myself and just thinking or listening to a podcast or listening to music.
Mhm.
And it's just become a habit of self-care.
Gardening and therapy. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. There is also I was thinking about, taking off your shoes and being in the garden. I'm gonna butcher it because I didn't come up with it and Bill told me it. But something about like the best fertilizer for your garden is like the farmer or something in regards, because if you're out there in your garden on the regular taking notice, like you're going to see things, you're going to notice things, and your plants are going to thrive better. So,
No, that's I've I heard something like that too. You hear about, people that even like pray for their plants, like, or
uh-huh.
just give their plants some love, and give
Yeah.
them some attention. There's something to be said for that. They're
There was
living beings, right?
uh-huh. Yeah, no, right? Like it's growing, they're growing too. The cells are forming. There was this one I'll throw out a crazy thought but sound waves, like a particular like playing like a major chord or something, a particular sound wave is like beneficial to a garden or something. There was some, like, I think maybe it was a vineyard, and the gentleman like would play music to his vineyard.
Oh, that's funny. Yeah, but there's truth to be
Something
said
in
with
it.
that, right?
Yeah, yeah. So I'm wondering if someone is listening and they're kind of like, "Oh, this sounds cool. Like I'm interested in like doing something." And they're not sure where they would even like begin. Um, what could you offer them as encouragement, or what would you say to get started?
Well, I think for anybody, because even if you live in an apartment or yeah, in a major city, there's so many ways to be on a homestead journey. Baking bread. I mean, my
Mm,
first love of
yeah.
baking bread did not turn out pretty. And I actually just segued into solely making sourdough bread about a year ago. And that took a couple loaves to get it to where I liked it. Uh,
Uh-huh.
so anyone can start on any capacity. And what's nice is having the internet. There's so many recipes out there to just start, and just know when you start something, you're not going to be perfect about it. what you see mostly on social media is highlight reels, the perfect loaves of bread or the perfect gardens.
Right.
Speaking of growing things, you can grow so many different things even inside your home. So if you have a window, just get a
Get a
planter,
planter.
grow some herbs, some seeds in there, and experiment with it, with how
Yeah,
much you water, how much sunlight you give it. There's so many ways to start.
I like that. It's just do something. Pick one thing. Bread, a planter in the window. Yeah.
And just pick things that you want to enjoy that bring you happiness. And that's how I've started. I mean, anyone that might come to my house now will be like, wow, look at all the stuff you have. But it's just been evolving. I mean, I've lived in this home for 6 years, but it's been evolving since what I've learned from my childhood. So it's just slowly leveling up.
Right. Yeah, that's a good point. And if you like basil, then do basil. Like if you don't like thyme in recipes, don't waste your time doing thyme.
Or don't grow
Um,
kale if you don't eat kale. I actually don't like kale.
okay.
I don't grow kale.
You'll grow it. Yeah. Well, let's jump into the business. When did you start Sweetgrass Essentials?
I officially started it back in 2017.
Okay.
So I started it because I wanted to make products for my children since they were the baby toddler ages, and the products worked. I started off with aromatherapy and it worked on them. So
Okay.
that's where I started. And I've segued since then to making an array of products. I started playing around with different herb blends for immunity, um, different types of other aromatherapy. I didn't have a lotion that I liked, that I trusted, so actually started trading beef from my cows with a friend. She was milking, she had goats, so I was trading her beef for goat milk and started making
Oh.
goat milk lotion.
Uh-huh.
And recently, about a year and a half ago, saving the tallow from my cow slaughtering and making skin products with that, which has been very exciting because
Yeah. And by the way,
tallow,
thank you. We used some of that beef tallow lotion on our toddler with some bad eczema on his feet, and it really made progress.
I'm so happy to hear that. I mean, there's so many benefits with tallow. It's come back on the map again of how great it is. It seemed to disappear for a couple decades, but it's was the original type of skin product that people would use back in the day. It
Hmm.
has it has antioxidants, anti-inflammatory properties, and all of these different vitamins, A, D, E, and K, that help with so many different purposes.
Hmm. And I'm sorry, I kind of interrupted you there, but what other products? So you do some goat milk lotion, you have the beef tallow, some aromatherapy. I think you also have hand sanitizer, don't you?
I have hand sanitizer that I add essential oils, antibacterial essential oils into it, to give it that 1-2 punch to kill all the germs. Um,
Okay.
I started making magnesium oil that I added into. I haven't been making magnesium oil. I've been adding magnesium oil into the goat milk lotion. I make a magnesium oil spray. Most of us are deficient in magnesium, so this is just another way to get the magnesium into your body. If you don't eat enough foods that have the magnesium, I make a detox bath soak for sore muscles and also for the first signs of illness. Um, and yeah, a couple linen sprays and some other herbal elixirs for sleep and stress.
Okay. Is there any product that you are hoping to offer in the future that you're kind of dreaming up?
So I have one in the works with comfrey. I grow comfrey on my farm. So I have some drying right now that I'm going to infuse in an oil to make a comfrey skin balm for aches and sprains.
Okay. Yeah.
So, yeah, that's exciting to dabble with that.
We do have one small comfrey plant, and I already talked to you about comfrey a little bit, and we have a couple leaves soaking in olive oil for the next like 6 to 8 weeks or whatever timeline. I don't know. The husband put the thing together. I shared all of your resources that you shared. I passed along, and it's brewing. So
And what's crazy with comfrey, it's been used in Japan. They have been using it for 2,000 years for aches and sprains and inflammation. So it's been around where
yeah.
people have been using it.
Go figure. It's just one of the sad things of like it's great that we have these advances, but we've also like for the sake of advancing, we have discredited all of the history behind us in a way, and that's just an unfortunate. But again, it's cyclical. Things are coming back.
It is coming back. There is a homeopathy pellet made by Boiron. I don't know if I'm pronouncing it right. It's you can buy it anywhere, and it's actually derived from comfrey for
Okay.
sprains and strains.
Nice. I'll have to check that out. So uh for the listeners, where can they find you? I did mention your Instagram. I think that's probably the best place to find you because you put out some very, very fun stories. I definitely track your storyline.
Well, thank you. No, it's been fun. I try to encourage people by showing them my farm stories and my gardening kind of lifestyle stories. And yeah, so I'm mostly on Instagram, and then my website is sweetgrassessentials.com.
Okay. I will put that in the show notes for everyone if they're curious. And then the last question I wanted to ask before we wrap up is do you have a book that you would like to share? We think that books provide just a wealth of knowledge and depth beyond our conversations here. And we really enjoy recommending things. And if the listener wants to pick it up, they can. And if not, so be it. But yeah, is there any book that has really inspired or encouraged you in the realm of homesteading and farm life?
So the book I recommend, it's actually a children's book, and it's our family favorite book. Um, I put it away for most of the year, and I bring it out every fall, and it's like a new surprise that we read together. It's called Oxcart Man by
Oxcart Man. Okay.
Donald Hall, and it's a book from the colonial times, and about a family and what they grow, what they make, what they raise, and it's a story of the father taking the ox into town, into the big city, and selling the vegetables they grow and the things that they make, and coming home with some supplies that are a little upgrade to what they were using, and doing it all over again. And
Oh,
it's just the sweetest story of old fashioned family in the colonial times, which is my family's favorite era.
oh, that sounds like a cute book. Do you think you said it's a family book, so I could probably read it to a 6 year old?
It is, yes. Yeah, it's a children's book.
Okay. Well, we will have to check that one out and add that to the show notes too for anyone. Um, Jennifer, thank you so much for coming on the show today. It's been lovely chatting with you, and I think the listeners will really enjoy our conversation today.
Yeah, thank you so much. Thanks for having me.
All right, guys, thanks for tuning in to today's interview. I'm sure you love hearing Bill and I chat about various topics, but truly, in the heart of nuance, it is wonderful to bring on a guest and have a conversation. So I hope you enjoyed, and until next time.